Hi, and welcome to Bridging International Waters. Thank you for joining us in this mediation podcast where we're talking about bridging international waters using mediation. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. I'm your host, Priyanka Vipandit, and I have with me the fabulous
Marcus Farry. Thank you so much for the warm introduction, Priyanka.
Thank you, Marcus. And please lead this one with emotional intelligence, very, very important to mediation. Over to you.
Thank you. So, emotional intelligence and mediation. So, what is emotional intelligence and how does it affect or change the mediation process? And what's in it for the people that actually take part? So, emotional intelligence is actually all about, I call it an empathetic viewpoint and standpoint, as I do brand myself as the empathetic mediator, where we understand of what that emotion and what impact of that situation has had with that participant in mediation. And the awareness of how what was really going on for them at that time, what was brought up within them for them to react like they did. So, for example, we could use an office situation of someone stealing food out of the fridge. On the surface, it looks like they stole food at the fridge. But what could have been going on from that person's point of view, from an emotional intelligence point of view, was the fact that they've may have been in a traumatic situation throughout their entire lives where things were stolen from them. They could have had something huge, and they've then brought up all their trigger points from the past to the present, and all you've seen is the small tip of the iceberg, whereas for them it's a huge thing.
Very true. Very
Like,
true.
we examine how we manage difficult feelings, and it improves the communication because you can understand then what they have been through. Some people that do, I use this one quite a lot. Some people that come to mediation only have like a small, maybe a little carrier bag worth of things that's happened with them, and they're quite well at managing themselves. And then the other party might have a Sherpa and an Everest rucksack type of luggage of what they've been through and happened to them in their lives. So when you compare, it's like, well, I didn't understand you've been through that, and I didn't understand that you've, might not understand because of this, and this. So we're here to explore this today.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Marcus. And while you were talking about that, it brought back to me, um, an episode from Friends, for those of our listeners who are familiar, where Ross gets really wound up about someone eating his sandwich, that Monica sort of made with like the moist maker in the middle. So for those of y'all who haven't seen that episode or just want to revisit it, please do, because it's so relevant to what we're talking about. And how in that episode, beautifully, they realized that it was not just about the sandwich. It was about so many other things that are happening in his life that sort of make him feel like everything's, unfolding around him and everything's just crumbling down. And that's really what mediation is about, right? It's about recognizing those emotions. And it's very important for us to understand that as humans, conflict involves really strong emotional reactions, right? And it is these reactions of anger, of frustration, of fear that can really sort of rile you up to do something that you would not do, or to take positions which are really hard or out of your element. So once you recognize these emotions, it helps you to not just address them, but it also clarifies everything, everything that's otherwise cloudy. And it helps you to understand the real issues that are bothering this person who is part of the conflict. And naming those emotions can really reduce the intensity. And this is so important. So often in mediation, when you're having a conversation, many people don't even know how to express what they're feeling. So if you are able to identify those emotions and you're able to sort of name it or define it for them, just that recognition of what they're feeling can bring down the intensity from there to sort of here. And then that gives them very, it makes them very comfortable, and it allows them that supportive structure to have a constructive dialogue where they can now speak freely and rationally without worrying about their emotions or without being afraid of expressing what they truly feel about the conflict. So,
Yeah.
recognition is really key in the process when you're dealing with emotional resolutions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well explored and explained. Um, and some mediators may struggle to keep calm and balance through that. I mean, it takes an experienced person to, like ourselves, to step in
Yes,
and just be like, okay, because that conversation they might be having might bring up things that the mediator's been through, and
true.
that's, I mean, that if that happens to you, then you need to speak to your PPC or your advisor or the person that you speak to really reflect and process what's going on for you like that. Um,
Yes,
but remaining calm and balanced in the calm in the chaos, remaining the calm
absolutely.
in this is so critical, because if they're exposing it and showing their vulnerable side and you have a reaction to that, it might
Yes,
just overexert the entire process. So
yes,
the self-awareness with yourself, recognizing
yes.
that within you is critical to avoiding that emotional reaction the mediator will have.
Very
As
true.
in the joint session, it could break impartiality and neutrality. If you have a reaction to one side rather than the other, the person might go, well, you've just had a moment or you've had a situation with them, and it's like, well, they might feel left out. So what you're doing is
Mm,
actually supporting, again, emotional regulation. It really does provide that foundation for a supportive conversation, and that composure just guiding that conversation along, keeping both participants safe, while managing the reactions. If someone gets a little bit, if someone's needs 5 minutes to have a break, then you
yes,
call for thought, right? In that respect, we'll just take a 5 minute break. You reduce the intensity of that conversation.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So important, right? Like it's a
yeah,
pause, and a well-timed pause is so critical. It can really change the way conversation is flowing. And coming to that, how do you recognize these things? How do you identify whether it's the right time to pause, right? This requires observation on a non-verbal level. So you really have to learn to look for signs that our body gives out, right? And most of us know this. For those of us who are not aware, 80% of our communication is non-verbal, and we focus so much more on what is being said, and how it's being said. These things can really change the way a communication or a conversation is sort of flowing. And it is the non-verbal signs that you get in a communication that really reveal emotional signals, right? Someone's posture, someone's tone, someone's facial expression can help you identify whether they're uncomfortable, whether they're a little tensed, fearful, embarrassed, their anticipation, and these observing these signals really help you understand that there are some deeper concerns there, something that has not already been shared or disclosed to you. And this would be a great strategic time. Once you've identified this, just through body language, you can sort of decide as a mediator if you want to pause the process, or if you want to suggest that you'd like to have a private session again with one of the parties just to sort of address that, and sort of summarize and understand more about what was already shared. And what that does to a party is it shows that you're really invested in the process. You're being empathetic, that they don't always have to say something out loud, because uh, when you're dealing with sensitive, high emotional issues, it's not very easy for everybody to say it out in words. So if you have someone who can just understand what you're going through and give you a safe space to express themselves, however they'd like, even if it means an emotional outburst, it just to have a safe space where nobody's going to judge you for crying or feeling what you're going through in the process it just builds that connection, it builds empathy, and it improves your overall communication. In many counseling sessions between parents or partners who've been in a long domestic relationship, um, it becomes very important to understand body language of your partner as well, because everyone's not comfortable or capable of expressing themselves in words always. So once you sort of are able to do that, if you're able to read body language and understand and give someone that space to accept that they need time or they need to express themselves in a different way, it can just beautifully change things for the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And mediators really would benefit if they don't or know what the body language signs are, just to really brush up on that so you can really help the
Yes,
clients in there as much as possible.
absolutely.
Power of silence. Oh my goodness, I could talk about this for such a long time.
Oh,
Silence. So where do we even start? So in the mediation process, whether it's a one-to-one or in the session itself, a joint session, or even any form of mediation, the silence pause is fantastic. So I've had a few moments where both parties would just, I've not said anything, they've not said anything, and it's lasted around between 10 and 25 seconds. And it was like both emotions on both sides were just resetting and
yes.
processing of what each other have said. And it was deafening of how powerful it actually was.
Mm.
And then the next words out both sides' mouths were, yeah, sorry. Or not straight away, but that was like kind of the outcome of one of them. And then the other one, for example, was, I didn't know that was going on for you.
Mm.
I didn't mean that for that to happen. And
So
then the
true.
other party's like, thanks for sharing that and saying that. Pause. It's been quite difficult this last 6 months or 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
And it just encourages going forward from there. Some of the best resolutions I've ever had is where it's just been, I wouldn't even call it an awkward pause. It was like a so well timed, divine time, call it, space of just, wow, both have been impacted, both parties have felt this emotion. And you can see then it shift going forward. And it's like, honestly, it's beautiful. It really is. Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely is. I mean, just when you were explaining that, and we often, I think, give very little value to silence. At least those of us who are capable of speaking and expressing ourselves verbally, I think we forget how important just listening to something and not reacting or responding sort of becomes. And it truly is powerful.
Yeah.
Um, And when you have this kind of awareness of emotional um, intelligence, and you sort of apply your, and each one of us have it. Each one of us have an emotional IQ, and we need to understand it and apply it so that we can really help transform difficult conversations. And these skills are not just meant for mediation. You can actually apply them in your day-to-day lives and see the transformational change that they can bring just to everyday conversations and everyday relationships that you have with so many stakeholders that each one of us have in our social lives, right? um, that kind of empathy and respect, it just changes the way you live, you feel, you perceive, and you respond instead of reacting. And that truly is personal growth. It's very empowering.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, empathy, you can take that. I mean, if the world had more empathy collectively, then we'd be
Yes.
in such a better place. And that's a good thing, because recognizing it now of what we can take
Yes.
forward, like you just said, into every day of
Yes.
our lives, that's exciting.
Absolutely.
That is seriously
Absolutely.
exciting.
Absolutely.
Bringing the feelings, the logic, the understanding. Like, how much great can you create? I like that. How much great can you create? Might as well put that as a bridge moment.
Yeah, absolutely. For the next one, maybe.
um,
Is that today's
I don't know.
bridge
I
moment?
can't
Is that
remember today's.
oh, we're gonna
I'm
so
excited.
that's a surprise for all of us.
It is
But let's before we get to our bridge moment, the reflection for today, Marcus, is how might recognizing emotion change the way we respond to conflict?
amazing. Recognizing the emotion of what someone's been through first without reacting
Hmm.
is, well, it changed conflict, because if you wanted to react in a conflicting way rather than understand what they've been through, then,
Yes.
well, it's reduced. It will completely reduce and recognize how conflicts even developed. If there's someone, for
True.
example, if you're using the food in the fridge, that person's not eaten for like 2 days and they've not had any financial support, and they've literally come in, picked the first kind of food out of the fridge, eaten it, and then the other party's gone, look, I'm sorry, I didn't know you was going through that. I can buy you some lunch, or rather than just go straight to escalation, because that was kind of the outcome in the case. They've not eaten for nearly two
So
days
true.
because financial constraints. And when the other party found out, it was a really good tearful moment, really, because they thought they knew this person and they were
Mm.
presented well, and little did they know they had no money to actually get some food. So then the outcome that made this emotion, the outcome that they took forward was they looked after each other in their own way. Yeah.
That was
It's deep.
so
That's deep.
beautiful. And but thank you for that reflection, Marcus. That was really profound. Bridge moment. Emotion is information, not interruption.
Yeah.
Absolutely true, right? I mean, from even from the example that you sort of shared of where it sort of ended, like what the realization was at the end of that conversation. Um, I mean, that emotional reaction or response sort of helped us understand someone else, where they're coming from, because there's so much that each one of us are going through and not showing, right?
Yeah.
Or we're afraid to sort of show.
Wearing the
And
mask.
so much that we absolutely wearing the mask, and so much that we otherwise end up taking for granted, right? Because we assume from what we know, without thinking about it many times over. So really, understanding those emotions can really be information. It is not interruption. So when you
Yeah.
do it with the right intent, it can be really, really amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It,
thank you, Marcus.
you're
This
very, very
was
welcome. Yeah. It's
this
like
was
just
amazing.
a closing one on the emotion. It's like you know what someone's been through, really, don't you? If
Yes,
Because if you see the reactions of, you can try and piece it together what their trigger points were, but obviously you can't
true,
disclose that. But yeah,
true.
yeah,
But no, that
yeah.
was amazing. Well done.
Thank no, well done to yourself as well. That was amazing. That was beautiful. That last
Thank you.
explanation really just was like, yeah, it brought me there, and I was like, wow, that was deep. So yeah, thank
Yes,
you for,
yes.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for today, Marcus. And thank you to all our listeners. We hope you join us for the next one. And do share your comments and tell us, everything about the bridge moments that you're feeling when we're talking about ours. We'd love to hear from you.
Well said. Well said. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Bye.